Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations.
Thank you.
One thing about the budget, Madam Chair, is that we talk about numbers. So you give all the speeches, in the fullness of time, you're relegated to numbers. And in this budget, after all the speeches about the deficit and debt, the deficit goes up the first year in this budget. There's an ongoing joke that Wimpy always told. He said he'd gladly pay a quarter tomorrow for a hamburger today. The deficit goes up the first year of this deficit. Now, that's not a surprise because we have a Republican president. Every Republican president since Nixon has left for his Democratic successors a worse deficit than they inherited, without exception. Every Democrat since Kennedy, every Democratic administration since Kennedy has left for the Republican successors a better deficit situation than they inherited, without exception. So here we are again, Democrat succeeded by a Republican. Republican first opportunity makes the deficit worse. And so you have a budget that includes billions of dollars of tax cuts for the wealthy and pays for it with cuts for working men, women, and those in need, and ends up with a deficit. Now, the only thing I'm asking for in this amendment is if you're going to have a charade like this, don't make the students and the needy pay for it. Don't make Meals on Wheels, students' access to college, Pell Grants, student loans, or child nutrition programs pay for this kind of budget. And so we want to exempt the Committee on Education and Workforce from having to come up with cuts to help make this charade of a budget a reality. So that's the amendment.
So that is your amendment.
To exempt the Committee on Education and Workforce from cuts so that children, the elderly, healthcare programs, child nutrition programs don't have to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy.
You've heard the gentleman's amendment. I have no questions to ask. Mr. McGovern?
I would just thank the gentleman for being here, and I agree with him, and I support his amendment. Look, Republicans seem to put on equal footing a tax giveaway to Elon Musk with child nutrition, with SNAP, with Pell Grants, with health care programs to help the most needy. And I don't share that view. I think if government has a responsibility, one of the major responsibilities is to help lift people up. And again, the ironic thing is you're making these deep cuts, and we're not talking about balancing the budget. We're talking about with a bigger debt and deficit than we've ever had. And so, in any event, I thank the gentleman, and I look forward to supporting his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. Ms. Fishbach, you're recognized. I have no questions. Right. Ms. Scanlon, you're recognized. Ms. Houchin.
I have no questions.
Ms. Leger-Fernandez.
Thank you very much for your amendment. You know, I spent time in my rural district over our work period, and 717 schools in New Mexico receive federal education funding. And if we cut this funding, what we are doing is we are increasing the cost for those schools and the families who live in them. If we do the cuts directed at the various agencies, we are increasing the cost in rural America, and that is the exact opposite of what this president promised. And I think it's very interesting because somebody said earlier that there was a mandate. Well, he won by 1.4%. And what we're seeing now is that there is such an outcry about his economic policies that his approval rating is plummeting and is now in the 30s because of what he is doing on the economy and how he will be hurting the American people. I thank you for the amendment. I think that folks in this chamber who have districts like mine should do well to support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leisure Fernandez. Mr. Langworthy, you're recognized.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, you're recognized. Mr. Griffith. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Scott. I